Hello everyone, good evening and thank you for joining us for our Thrilling Reads virtual event with author David Fennell, who will be discussing his debut novel The Art of Death. My name is Philippa and I'm one of the senior librarians at Durham Libraries, and I will be your host for this event. Hello. Firstly, I need to thank Bonnier Books and the Reading Agency for the opportunity to host this event. And as these Thrilling Reads are our first virtual author events, we're hoping that we can do some more for you. Before I introduce the author, I'll tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. David is first of all going to jump in and introduce his brand new book to you and read an extract from it. Then we'll have a little bit of a discussion about the book and writing, and we'll finish off with some questions that you guys have sent in. At the end, I'll tell you all where you can find copies of the book, because that's what you'll want to do. And without further ado, I would like to welcome David Fennell. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Philippa. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm quite excited to hear you reading and get into this discussion. So are you ready and okay to go ahead and tell us a bit about your book and do a reading?
Yes, absolutely. And so as Philippa said, my name is David Fennell and I'm the author of The Art of Death. And The Art of Death is the story of Detective Inspector Grace Archer, who is a newly promoted DI at the Met police station at Charing Cross Road. On her first day, she is assigned to a case that no one else wants. It's effectively an art installation in Trafalgar Square, and they've had a few complaints about it of being obscene. And her new DS, who's a caustic Belfast man, the two of them go to investigate, and they find out that the art exhibition, which is 3 cabinets containing bodies of 3 dead homeless men. So that's kind of the beginning of the book, and it sort of sets the tone, because that's the artist in question, who is like a Banksy kind of Damien Hirst character, threatens more to come. So there is then a race against time for Archer and Quinn to stop this malevolent artist come serial killer. So I'm going to read you an extract from the first chapter. And okay, chapter 1, Central London. He approaches the Lumberyard Cafe on the corner of Monmouth Street and Tower Street and checks his watch. It's 8:09 a.m., less than 1 hour until the curtains drop. A tingling sensation surges through him, prickling his flesh, rousing his senses. He takes a breath and composes himself. The Lumberyard Cafe is one of a breed of urban cool coffee shops dotted throughout London. The exterior is painted an a la mode Victorian dark grey in a shabby chic style with splashes of contrived, meaningless graffiti art that pull at his eyes for all the wrong reasons. The entrance door is a contrasting pillar box red, not a colour he would have chosen, but each to their own. Peering through the cafe window, he sees Elaine Kelly's blonde head nod and shake as he chats to her bestie Jackie, the friend who is forever posting cat pictures, mood memes, and filtered selfies with ridiculous pouting lips. Jackie's mediocre existence is gilded through the lens of social media. She has a small candle burning in a cavern, not like Elaine. Elaine is special. Elaine is the flame that lights the cavern. But Jackie has her uses. Jackie's social media is his window into Elaine's whereabouts. Her postings have brought him here today. If he is lucky, he can sit close to her, listening, watching, smelling. A smile crosses his face as he appraises his muse. She'll be an exquisite addition to his next exhibition. Pushing open the red door, he is greeted by a rush of different aromas, Fresh brewing coffee, fruit teas, fried chorizo, and toast. Jazz music plays through tinny speakers, thankfully lost in the drone of the clientele. A fat batch of latte-supping millennials and 30-somethings with their heads buried in the latest iPhones and silver MacBooks inhabit the seating areas. Some are in groups and others are alone, but all are online and connected, their personal details open and ready for the taking, should one or more capture his interest. He closes the door quietly behind him. The floors are stripped pine, scuffed by the leather and rubber soles of coffee bores, seeking a caffeine fix with their breakfast of grilled halloumi and squashed avocado and toasted sourdough. Cold industrial aluminium pipes, draped in red, pink and white bunting, hang from the ceiling. The walls are exposed brickwork with Warholian graffiti art, canvas paintings. One depicts the Queen wearing a baseball cap, and another shows several images of an athletic, six-packed teenage boy suggestively squeezing the crotch of his tight white shorts. Edgy, he thinks, and almost laughs. "Hello, what can I get you today?" says a chirpy voice. He follows it and sees a young Asian woman smiling up at him from behind a mountain of donuts, cakes, and croissants. His eyes flare and he watches her for longer than he should. Her face is small, her eyes bright. His gaze slides to her neck, which is tender and smooth. He moistens his lips, but senses a change in her demeanor. He sees a trace of fear in her eyes. She is smart and she can see through his shell. He glances at her name badge. "Excuse me, Cho," he says, with a warm smile as he can muster. "I was miles away." Her return smile is trepidatious. She is wise to be cautious. "I'll have an Americano, please." "Name, please." She doesn't meet his gaze. He gives her his name. "Would you like something to eat?" "No, thank you." "I'll bring it to you." "Thanks," he says, passing over a crisp £5 note. "Keep the change." He scans for a place to sit. Business is thriving and tables are limited. However, through a partitioned bookshelf wall, he spots two Spanish tourists leaving from a table in the corner. A perfect location with a direct view of a lane. It is meant to be. He skirts around the partition, stands by the empty table and looks distastefully at the debris on top. A passing mail server quickly clears away the mess, much to his relief. He sits at the table and from his shoulder bag removes his moleskin notebook and Mackie Phoenix fountain pen, which he places neatly side by side. He then takes out his MacBook Air and iPhone. He is assimilating into his environment. Like a chameleon, he has blended into it and become one of them. And that is my reading.
That sounded fantastic. It's, to be honest, your novel's sort of right up my street with the whole serial killer thing, without sounding totally weird. But just really getting a sense there of just how creepy he is. Like it makes your kind of spine tingle, and it's not. You can tell he's not a nice man. You've really got into the mind of a serial killer for this. So how have you done that? Because, you know, I often read about killers and murderers and things, and I often think, you know, why have they done that? How have they been able to do that? So how did you sort of deal with that and produce what you've produced?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the thing with my killer is that, you know, like any other, like almost all serial killers, they are narcissists, and I really wanted that to come across, and of course, you know, it's in terms of getting into the mind of one. I don't know if I could. I kind of did what I imagined a narcissist, uptight artist, come morally bankrupt person would be like, and you know, and I think I did it with this guy. I hope I did. So he you know, my kind of focus in creating this character was to never forget those things. So he's a narcissist. He's obviously morally bankrupt. He has no empathy. But like all serial killers, pretty much, you know, I mean, they are the monsters of today, and they kind of walk amongst us. So we don't. They look like us. They're the same as us, and this is the thing. And that's what he is. You know, he's kind of one of us. Like in that last line, he's basically walked into this cafe and just assimilated into his environment, and no one blinks an eye. So
yeah, a lot of people who kill sort of enjoy sort of the fame that they get, whether that's through newspaper articles or things like that. And obviously your killer puts his victims in an art exhibition, so he definitely fits into that category. Where did you get the idea of the art exhibition and that sort of show of his talents, if you like? Where did that come from?
So, well, first up, I would say he does not consider himself a killer first and foremost. You know, people are commodities to him. So he's not like us, who we people we love and admire, and you know we're all empathetic. He is not like that. So a human being is something like something he can use as for his art, and so you know, obviously exhibiting live people is not an option. So he has to kill them, but it's just something he has to do, like a normal thing for him. So in terms of the idea, where I got the idea for the street art exhibitions, is that you may well come across these in Durham and I think other cities, where there was a few years back, there was a time when these fiberglass calves appeared in cities all around the world, and no one knew how they just popped up, and they were all like painted by local artists, and they were really stunning and fantastic, and they'd just be everywhere. And in Brighton here, we had them in snails. We had snails a couple of years ago, and all done by local artists, and I was kind of intrigued by that concept, to use that, and through a admin error in the council, suddenly these, which is part of the Lord Mayor's show, this art exhibition is supporting street art. These things are delivered in the middle of the night and just left there with covers, and no one knows any different. Everyone thinks they're very convincing dummies. It's like, and so that became the basis for that exhibition.
It's interesting. Good inspiration, to be honest. Can you tell us a little bit more about your characters, especially the police officers that you mentioned at the beginning, Quinn and Archer, who have great names, by the way? I like those names. What are they like, and what sort of relationship do they have?
So Archer is the lead character, Grace Archer, and she is she's around about 30 years old. She has been working in the police for about 10 years, serving a lot of her time at the NCA. She has a troubled past, and I won't reveal anything, because you drip fed this throughout the book, and various couple of experiences from her childhood that are pretty traumatic, and she lives with that on a day-to-day basis, and it has shaped her, but it doesn't define her. She's a very strong woman, and she gets on with it, although she, like you would be, as we all would be, she's haunted. But at the same time, she's very moral, very empathetic, and kind, and it has a drive inside her to stop these kind of crimes, having, you know, with the background that she does, and you know, that gives her that extra energy to press ahead, and she is relentless in her fight to get justice and to stop this killer. And Harry Quinn, her detective sergeant, they are opposites in terms of personality. He's very he's a serious guy. He's a very good cop, but he has this sense of humor that is quite inappropriate sometimes, and sometimes it just kind of comes out of him, and he's, you know, at appropriate times, and she finds it a bit exasperating, but you know, it's she doesn't know who to trust when she first starts, and Harry offers her doesn't offer a partnership, but he seems to be the only one that's got her back. And the reason I say that is because she is replacing on her first day an officer who was corrupt and who she had charged. So it's a tiny little spoiler, but it's not hugely important. You pretty much find it out in chapter 2. So she goes into this new job with a lot of anxiety and people disliking her, and Harry Quinn, you know, who's pretty nonchalant about the whole thing. He never liked the corrupt cop anyway. Is you know, becomes her DS, and they form a very good team together.
How do you see that relationship evolve? And I assume that, I'm massively assuming that you are planning to write more books. So how do you see their relationship evolving?
I'm writing the second now, and in fact I have this week off my normal job, and I'm rushing through. I have to deliver the second book by the end of April for my contract, for this contract with Bonnier. So the second book, I'm surprising myself last night, writing a dark scene. I murdered someone I wasn't even expecting to murder, and oh my god, this is such a great opportunity. But it wasn't Quinn, or it wasn't Archer. So it's for me, their relationship has got to be at the core of this book. It's a platonic relationship, a relationship built on respect, and they get closer and closer. And in the next book, Quinn obviously has a troubled past as well. I won't give too much away, but they support each other, and they're there. So I'm one of those writers who really believes that, you know, once you've got a winning partnership like this, don't kill off the DS or anyone like that. It just drives me crazy. Or any of those characters that you really invest in and love. So I might change my mind. Who knows, later on. But I doubt it. You know, it's but and it seems to be that people enjoy their relationship, and you know, and I'm so happy with that when I hear people saying that. So. Yeah,
that's good that you're getting the feedback that's positive on, you know, something that you've obviously thought quite a lot about. You know, you've thought about that relationship and how it is going to continue. So yeah, that's nice that you're getting good feedback. Obviously, D.I. Archer is a female, so, you know, you're writing from a female perspective. Why did you choose a female lead, and did writing from that perspective sort of throw up any difficulties for you?
When I started, I thought there are so many male detectives being written now and being written in the past and probably in the future, and I didn't want to add to that list because some people are doing such a great job of it. Likewise with female detectives, but I wanted the challenge of writing a female detective, because for me, the female detectives in TV shows and books are always more interesting. Yeah, and I'm always rooting for that. Although I love people, TV shows. I love people like Columbo and Morse and whoever else. But I would have to say, I love the female detectives, the strong women fighting against these ridiculous environments, which are still the case, not all everywhere, but still the case in the force today. So, and in terms of, I guess the question is, am I writing from a female, or part of that question is, am I writing from the female experience, which I cannot do, obviously. However, I never tried to even attempt that. I kind of wrote Archer's emotions. In fact, almost every emotion that Archer experiences are emotions that I've experienced myself. So, and obviously we're not much different, are we, in terms of who we are. So it's she has a grandfather with early dementia. I have a father with early dementia. So a lot of that experience and how she felt about it and how she feels about some of the things she's going through are emotions that I felt. So it's so I tried to sort of capture that, and also obviously she gets sexism. There's a bit of sexism, so and I hopefully have maybe tackled that. So in terms to answer your question, it was more of a challenge and something that interested me more, writing from that perspective than writing from a male.
Excellent. So I was going to sort of say or ask if she was based on anyone in particular, but by the sounds of it, you've sort of drawn bits of her from various places and kind of amalgamated them. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's probably a fair point, but I haven't based her on anyone. She's kind of just evolved with the story, if you like, and then once I knew she was obviously going to have a troubled past, and so as the story progressed and I was writing it, her character began to develop through the actions, how she behaved in certain ways, and that's and so in terms of linking her with anyone else, I'm not conscious that I've done it. Perhaps I have, but it's I don't think so.
Excellent. So in terms of that police aspect of the novel, how much research did you have to do into the sort of procedural side of things, and where did you go to do that?
Well, I 2 Christmases ago, I asked for these as a present, these police manuals, the Blackstone, I think it's the Blackstone manuals. They're over there. I'm gathering dust. I never use them because they're so boring. And I'm like, who reads this? Like, well, policemen, obviously. And for me, when I'm writing the police procedural stuff, I don't know if you compared to other books, I'm very, very light on the police procedural stuff because I don't know a lot about it. So I'm writing instinctively and what I think is probably right. And then I get cross-checked by various people. And I've asked in the questions of legal friends, what you think, and and some ex-police people I know who are now authors, and but I generally write instinctively, and based on my experience of reading and watching crime. I thought, okay, well, this would happen situation. But for me, it's more about it's very much, clearly the story is very important, but it's also about the character and everything else. And that's the technicalities of police procedural and stuff like that. That's very unexciting to write about.
Yeah, that seems a sensible way to go about it, to be honest. And that's also sort of quite different from your day job, because you've got a background in cyber security.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to give too much away, but there is sort of a lot of online goings on and mentions of online, activities and things. So did your background inform your decision to include that, and was it important to have that aspect?
My background did inform that, and very much so. I'm very aware of social media, and the dangers of the information that we are sharing all the time. I think we just don't realize it. This kind of stuff that we are posting online, we're posting photographs, and attached to that photograph is a geographical location, a time and a date, and and people can see that on Facebook or wherever else, and on Facebook we might have our date of births, we might have where we live, we might have when we're going on holiday. We might have passwords that typical password is like the name of our dog and 123, and I'm sure that might shock a few of your people, but that's if you're those kind of things that normal everyday people will choose, and we are everything that we do is pretty much being controlled by social media, and what they saw on Facebook. So for The Art of Death, I wanted to bring that down into a smaller level, to the level of my serial killer, who uses social media to profile his victims. So he might be like he was at the beginning. He'll be sitting in a cafe, and he can see people checking into the cafe's Facebook page, and then he can click on their Facebook profile and then see who they are, where they live, what they like to eat, different pictures of them. So he's kind of he's like a peeping Tom into their life, and he's using that information to see if that person will be a suitable candidate for one of his exhibitions.
Yeah, I think it's a really important sort of theme that you've took on, to be honest, especially through lockdown. Everybody's just jumped straight onto the computer without really thinking too much about the what's going to happen doing that. So I think it's good that you've took that on, to be honest. This is your debut novel, which is fantastic, so exciting. How did you feel when you were told that your book had been accepted for publication?
It was wonderful. It had gone through quite a few rejections from, I think, nearly all the publishers we sent it to, and when it came down to Bonnier accepting it, it was really wonderful, I was very happy about that, obviously. So yeah, great. It's always it's a privilege to get published and to be accepted, and for people to have that vision for your book. So
yeah. And what about your cover? How much sort of say did you have in that, and are you happy with it? I think I like it. It's great. It's
absolutely stunning. They did an incredible job. So they submitted several maybe different types of covers, and my agent and I, we went through them. We were like, they just weren't right, and it took a while to get to this stage, but their artist came back with a few variations of this, and then we all kind of on email, the publisher and I just kind of all of us agreed that this was the right one, and I couldn't be happy with it. I just think it's very sinister, it's very stunning, and it does kind of, it's like a floating person almost, isn't it? And it's so I'm really glad you like it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it like I said, it does seem to sort of capture the title very well as well. If you're just sort of looking at the cover itself and nothing else, it does capture the title well, which is what you want. Really.
Absolutely. I'm really delighted with it, and of course, it's got this raised blood.
Yeah, the shiny. I like the shiny.
Yeah. And I told people, one of my neighbours' kids up the street, that's my blood. I bled for this book. And
well,
terrified her a little.
We don't have too long left, so am I okay to move on to some questions that people have
Absolutely, yeah.
This is quite a good question. I like this question. If you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 books would you take with you? Or if you can't pick books, which authors would you take?
Authors. I'd probably take books, because if it was authors that I really loved and admired, we might end up falling out and then eating one of the other, because there's no food. It's like, and that would be so tragic. What would I take? What am I currently reading? I might take, one of my favorite crime books, I think, is Gone Girl. So I'd take that, and I just think that's brilliant. Character study of 2 sort of broken people and the relationship. I absolutely love that book. And Gillian Flynn is just a fantastic writer. I'd probably take Sarah Waters is one of my favorite writers. I adore her books and her. So I'm not sure which one I would take. Come back to that one. And third, I'd probably take something very, very long. I'm just looking for inspiration here. I might take Lord of the Rings. That's, yeah, because that was my staple when I was a teenager. I read it about 5 times, and we in those days we didn't have the movies or anything like that. This is in the 70s, way before you were born. And so it was, I was obsessed, and going back into that world over and over again in those pages was just, I have such fond memories of it, and I think it's one of those things I wouldn't get bored with on a desert island. So to answer Sarah Waters' question, I would probably take, oh my God, I've lost the title. What's her second book called? There's Affinity. Oh, I know. It's can't remember. It'll come to me.
But that one, you take that one. Right, next one. Why did you set the book in London, and what is your interest in art?
London's a city I know very well, and I spend a lot of time there, and especially that area. And so it kind of made sense to write it in an area that I know very, very well. And also there's a lot of, it's got a richness to its architecture, and a lot of decay as well, and a lot of diversity. And I kind of, I wanted to create a London that is, that has a escape of decay and very much an Edwardian, Victorian kind of feel about it in modern day settings, and that kind of London was perfect for that. And of course, I can just go and walk the streets and photograph everything, and it's kind of practically on my doorstep most of the time. So, and what was the other part of the question?
What's your interest in art?
Oh well, I wouldn't say I was an art lover. I mean, I have some some original pieces here, but I think this making it the focus of this book as a serial killer, done in this way was new. I think there might be similar. I think there's probably 1 or 2 other similar serial killer kind of things where people do bodies as art, but this doing it this way in vitrines filled with formaldehyde and these kind of haunting images that I wanted to sort of really play with that and frighten people. And I hope
yeah, that was kind of you.
Thanks. Well done.
And last question, what advice would you give someone looking to get their first novel published?
I would say get an agent, first of all. Generally, you will not get to a publisher without going to an agent first. Agents will agents have the ears of publishers. There's very few publishers that will accept manuscripts directly, but in terms of understanding the business side of things and getting the best deal for your book, obviously get an agent. Write the best book you can, persevere, hold your nerve, keep at it, and you will get rejected more than likely. Even as a published author, you get rejected for certain things. And, once your book is out there, it might not go to certain places or prizes. It's just constant rejection, but you just got to live with it and just crack on. If you love writing, you will find your story and you will find your agent and so on. So just keep at it.
It's very good advice. Very honest advice as well, I think. I think some people give it too much of a sunny outlook sometimes, but I think, there is a lot of rejection, and I'm glad you've been honest. So thank you for that.
And thank you. And writing is really hard work. It's not easy, and it's just hours and hours and hours. I've been working like 7 days a week for almost 4 or 5 months now, and it's just constant rewriting and constant insecurity. and I'm not generally an insecure person, but with my writing I am, and I think that's normal. Everyone is who's a writer, and that kind of helps shape the book and the narrative and everything else. So yeah.
That's excellent. Well, we've come to the end, so thank you very much. You can find David's book on BorrowBox right now, so you can go and grab it. If you aren't already a member of Durham Libraries, you can join online at www.durham.gov.uk/library online, and that'll give you immediate access to BorrowBox, so you can go and get his book straight away. And you can follow us as well on Facebook at County Durham Libraries and on Twitter at Durham Libraries. Just a reminder that on Thursday we will be hosting TM Logan, so please do come back for that. But for now, thank you so much for being here, David. It's been really interesting. Well, for me, it's been interesting. I'm assuming everyone else will think the same.
No.
Well, good luck with your book. I hope I hope it does really well. I'm sure it will. And for future publications as well. I can't wait for more.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for meeting with me. It's been a real pleasure, and I love Durham. It's such a beautiful city. So I hope to get back there soon, once this crazy pandemic's over. So yeah.
Yes, but would love to have you. So you're more than welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.